You thought healing would feel like sunlight. You thought the moment you closed your old wounds, the world would bloom around you, colors richer, air sweeter, life overflowing with meaning. You believed that when the pain was gone, joy would take its place. But here you are. The pain is quieter now. The chaos that once consumed you has thinned. And yet, there is a hollow space inside you, a silence that feels less like peace and more like absence. You have healed, but you still feel empty. Carl Jung understood this. He knew that healing, in the way most people imagine it, is incomplete. Because most people confuse healing with repair. They think it's about patching the broken places, sewing the skin back together, smoothing out the cracks. But Jung would tell you, healing is not about returning to who you were before the wound. It's about becoming someone who could never have existed without it. And here is the problem. You've closed the wound, but you haven't yet stepped into the self it was trying to create. You stopped the bleeding, but you haven't filled the space the pain once occupied. You ended the fight, but you haven't begun the next chapter. That emptiness you feel is not failure. It is the space between death and rebirth. The place the alchemists called the nigredo, the black phase, the void, where the old self has dissolved, but the new self has not yet taken form. It is uncomfortable, not because something is wrong, but because transformation is still underway. Most people panic here. They mistake the absence of pain for the absence of life. They rush to fill the emptiness with noise, new relationships, new projects, new distractions. They cannot bear the silence because they never learned how to listen to it. But this silence is the most important teacher you will ever have. It is the clearing after the storm, the soil after the fire. It is where you decide what will grow now that the weeds are gone. And if you skip this part, if you rush past it, you will rebuild the same life you worked so hard to escape. Jung would tell you that the wound was never just damage. It was an initiation. Pain stripped you of illusions. Loss taught you what truly matters. Suffering forced you into the depths, where you met the shadow you had spent your life avoiding. And yet, healing is not the end of the journey into those depths. Now, you must bring something back from them. You must take the raw material of your pain and use it to create a life that did not exist before. Not the old life restored, but a new one, born from the ashes. The emptiness is the invitation. It is the space asking to be filled with meaning that is truly yours, not borrowed from others, not inherited from culture, not dictated by fear. And that meaning cannot be given to you. You must forge it yourself through choice, through risk, through the willingness to live without guarantees. Because here is the harsh truth. Pain gives life its urgency, but meaning gives it its depth. And if you only remove the pain without replacing it with meaning, you will feel like a ghost in your own skin. This is why so many people sabotage themselves after healing. They think they missed the chaos, but what they really miss is the sense of purpose it gave them. Even if that purpose was survival, it still filled the void. Now that the fight is over, they are unarmed in the face of stillness. Jung would call this the crisis of individuation, the moment you are no longer defined by your wounds, but have not yet defined yourself by your own vision. It is the most dangerous point in your life, because it tempts you to go backward, simply because forward is still unclear. Do not go backward. Do not mistake the void for failure. The void is possibility, stripped bare of all disguise. It is the blank page before the story begins. And now, the pen is in your hands. But here is the truth. Most will never face the blank page is terrifying. When you have spent years surviving, every day dictated by pain, you have grown accustomed to being moved by necessity rather than by choice. Your suffering told you what to do. It told you what to avoid, what to fight, what to chase. Without it, you are left staring into the expanse of your own freedom. And freedom without direction can feel like drowning in air. Jung would tell you that this is the moment the real work begins. Not the work of bandaging the wound, but of building the soul. And this kind of work does not come with instructions. It asks you to turn inward, not toward the wound now, but toward the part of you that was never touched by it. The self, not the ego you have used to navigate the world, not the mask you wore to survive, but the deep, quiet center of your being that has been here all along. You have to meet it. You have to listen to it. And then you have to let it lead. But here is the problem: the self does not shout. It does not demand. It waits. It speaks in symbols, in dreams, in sudden moments of resonance you can't quite explain. It is the faint glimmer you feel when you read a line that pierces you, when you see a landscape that stirs something ancient in you, when you imagine a life so aligned with your truth it almost scares you. That is the voice you must follow now. It will not give you the whole map. It will give you one step at a time. And taking that step will require something you haven't needed for a long time: courage. Not the courage to survive pain, but the courage to create in its absence. This is where most people falter. They mistake the absence of pain for the presence of peace and stop moving. But peace is not the end goal. It is the foundation. And on that foundation, you must build something worth living for. If you do not, the emptiness will return with teeth. It will pull you back into situations that hurt you, because at least they made you feel alive. It will tempt you to reopen old wounds, just to feel something again. It will seduce you with nostalgia for the very things you fought to escape. Jung knew this pull well. He called it regression. It is the psyche's attempt to retreat to a familiar state when the unknown feels too vast. And the only way to resist it is to replace the familiar pain with a new and unfamiliar purpose. You must dare to ask yourself, if I am no longer defined by what hurt me, what will I be defined by? If I am no longer fighting for survival, what am I willing to fight for now? The answer will not arrive fully formed. It will come in fragments, in instincts, in subtle shifts, in what draws your attention. You must be patient enough to notice and brave enough to follow, because this is the paradox of healing. The wound may have been the fire that forged you, but it is not the life you are meant to live. Once the fire has done its work, you must step out of the ashes and build something the flames could never touch. And that is the work before you now. Not to return to who you were, not to cling to the identity of the survivor, but to step fully into the unknown and create a self that has never existed before. That is the only way the emptiness will finally be filled, not by going back, not by staying still, but by daring to become. And becoming is not a gentle process. It is not the soft golden image painted by self-help books and social media posts. Becoming is violent in its dismantling, tender in its reconstruction, and relentless in its demand for truth. Because the moment you decide to create a self beyond the wound, you must face the question: what have I been carrying that no longer belongs to me? You will find beliefs there heavy, rusted, and handed down like heirlooms. Beliefs about what you are capable of. Beliefs about what you deserve. Beliefs about how much space you are allowed to take up in the world. These were the invisible walls of your survival. And now they must fall. Jung would call this the process of individuation, stripping away the false layers so the true self can emerge. It is not about improvement. It is about excavation. It is about digging so deep into yourself that you pass through the rubble of everything you were told to be, until you touch something raw, untamed, and wholly yours. At first, it will feel disorienting. The identity you wore for so long, the one built around your wounds, will start to dissolve. You will catch yourself thinking, if I am no longer the broken one, the fighter, the survivor, who am I? And the answer will not come in words. It will come in moments, in the way you notice beauty where before you saw only danger, in the way you choose stillness when before you would have chosen chaos, In the way you no longer feel the need to prove your worth to those who cannot see it. But here is the trap. You will be tempted to cling to the old self simply because it feels solid. You knew how to navigate life as the wounded one. You knew how to survive. This open expanse of possibility feels far less certain. That is why most people never cross this threshold. They heal enough to stop hurting, but not enough to start living. They choose the comfort of their old identity over the risk of building a new one. And so they circle the same emotional ground for years, calling it peace when it is really just safety. But safety is not the point. Freedom Island, and freedom requires stepping into the unfamiliar. The emptiness you feel now is the price of admission. It is the space you must walk through to reach the other side. And it will not be filled by waiting for someone to give you permission. It will be filled the moment you decide, I will no longer live a life built from my pain. I will live a life built from my power. This is the moment Jung would call the turning point, the crossing from healing into creation, from the past into the future, from who you were into who you are meant to become. And once you take that step, the emptiness will no longer feel like a void. It will feel like possibility. It will feel like the wide open air before you take flight. And here is the truth. You will taste, once you cross into that air, the life you are meant to live will not resemble the life you lost. It cannot. Because that old life was built for a different version of you, one shaped by wounds, bound by survival, and tethered to patterns that could no longer hold you once you began to awaken. This is why the emptiness feels so strange. You keep looking for a doorway back into something familiar, but all you find is a vast, unmarked horizon. And that's because you're not meant to go back through a door. You're meant to carve a path where no one has walked before. Jung would say that the psyche resists this moment because it requires the death of the old ego. Not a gentle fading, but a death. The persona you've used to navigate the world, the one that said, I am the hurt one, I am the resilient one, I am the survivor, must dissolve completely to make room for the self. And the ego fears this more than anything because it has built its entire kingdom on that identity. But there is no kingdom worth keeping if its walls are made of wounds. You are not here to spend your life defending the site of your pain. You are here to build something beyond it, a life so aligned with your truth that it doesn't just heal you, it transforms you. And transformation is never comfortable. It will strip you of the relationships that only knew how to love the broken version of you. It will pull you away from the environments that thrived on your silence. It will demand you stop playing small for the comfort of those who fear your expansion. But in their place, something rare will arrive. The friendships that recognize the real you without the mask. The work that ignites your soul instead of depleting it. The love that sees your wholeness and does not flinch from it. And all of this comes at a cost. You must walk through the desert of emptiness without trying to escape it. You must let the old self burn without rushing to rebuild it. You must sit in the silence long enough to hear what the self has been whispering to you all along. You are not here to return. You are here to become. This is the point where the healing becomes alchemy, where pain, once just a wound, becomes the raw material of your power, where survival turns into creation, where the emptiness stops feeling like a grave and starts feeling like the fertile soil of a life you have not yet dared to plant. And the moment you plant that first seed, a choice, a vision, a step towards something entirely yours, you will understand why the emptiness was necessary. It was not a void. It was space being cleared for the life that is finally ready to begin. And when that life begins, it will not arrive with fanfare. There will be no trumpet blast, no sudden rush of applause from the universe. It will arrive quietly, almost unnoticed, in the smallest of shifts, the way you wake up without the heaviness that used to anchor you to the bed, the way you make decisions without second guessing whether you deserve the outcome, the way you speak without rehearsing your right to take up space. This is how the self emerges, not in one grand moment, but in 1,000 subtle declarations of sovereignty. It shows itself in the choices you make that no one else will ever see, the things you say no to, the things you finally say yes to, the boundaries you hold, even when they make you shake, the dreams you protect from people who would rather see you small. And as you live from this place, the emptiness begins to change shape. It is no longer the hollow echo of what was lost. It becomes the open expanse of what can be created. You stop seeing it as something to fill for the sake of filling it. You start seeing it as sacred space, reserved only for what is true, what is necessary, what is wholly yours. This is what Jung meant when he spoke of individuation, the slow, deliberate alignment between the life you live and the self that has always been there, waiting to lead you. It is not a path for the impatient. It is not for those who cling to the comfort of familiar cages. It is for those willing to let an entire version of themselves die in order to live a life that matches the depth of their soul. And this is where you begin to realize the wound was never the point. It was the doorway. It brought you to this threshold, to this empty, terrifying, beautiful expanse where you finally have the power to decide who you will be without it. Most people never step through. They stay at the doorway, decorating the past, rearranging the furniture of their old identity, calling it healing because it's safer than transformation. But you have walked through. You have let the silence hollow you out so that the truth could echo inside you. And now the truth has weight, has presence, has form. You are no longer living as the person who was shaped by their pain. You are living as the person who was born from it. And one day, without even realizing it, you will wake up and notice that the emptiness is gone. Not because it was filled with noise or distraction, but because you have built something so alive, so aligned, so entirely yours, that there is no room left for the hollow places to echo. This is the final stage of healing, not the absence of pain, but the presence of purpose. And once you arrive here, there is no going back, because purpose is not a destination, it is a state of being. It is the current running beneath every thought, every action, every breath you take. It does not require external validation, applause, or reward. It simply is steady, undeniable, and unshakable. You will know you have arrived when you no longer chase meaning in the chaos of the world, when you no longer reach for others to complete your story, when you wake up every morning with the quiet certainty that the life you are living is the life you were always meant to live. This is the essence of Jung's message. Healing is not enough, because healing without transformation is just a pause between storms. It is a fragile truce with the past, not a victory over it. To truly heal is to go beyond the wound, beyond the pain, beyond the survival story you've told yourself for so long. It is to step into a life where your soul leads, where your truth is your compass, where your purpose fills the spaces healing left behind. And in that life, you will finally feel whole. Not because the world is perfect or pain is gone, but because you have become so deeply aligned with yourself that nothing can unsettle your core. This is the freedom Jung envisioned, the freedom to live without fear, without pretense, without the desperate need to prove your worth. The freedom to create, to love, to exist fully and without apology. You have healed, and now it is time to live. Living fully means embracing paradox. It means holding both your shadows and your light without flinching. It means recognizing that emptiness is not a void to fear, but a vessel to fill with your own truth. Jung taught us that the psyche is like an ocean, deep, mysterious, and constantly shifting. You cannot control its tides, but you can learn to navigate them. You can learn to sail even when the storms return, because now you carry within you a compass forged by your own transformation. Every challenge, every setback, every moment of doubt becomes a wave you ride rather than a crash that drowns you. The emptiness you once feared now becomes the fertile sea from which your purpose rises. This is the courage of the awakened soul, not the absence of fear, but the choice to move forward anyway. Not the elimination of uncertainty, but the willingness to face it with open eyes and a steady heart. And when you live like this, you become a beacon, not because you are perfect, but because you are real. Not because you have all the answers, but because you have dared to ask the hardest questions. You heal not just for yourself, but for those who will come after you. You become a living testament to the truth that pain, when faced and transformed, can birth a life of profound meaning. So, when the emptiness creeps back, do not run from it. Do not fill it with noise or numb it with distraction. Sit with it. Listen. For in that stillness, yourself will speak. And when it does, you will know not intellectually, but deeply in your bones that you are not empty. You are becoming. You are whole. And in that knowing, the emptiness dissolves not because it is erased, but because it is transformed. It becomes the sacred space where your soul expands, where your true self unfolds, where your deepest purpose takes root. You are no longer defined by the wounds you carried or the pain you survived. You are defined by the life you create from them. This is the profound promise of Jung's wisdom. Healing is not the end of the story. It is the beginning of a new one, a story written by you from the depths of your being, with the courage to face the unknown and the conviction to live fully. You healed, and now you are free. Free to become the masterpiece you were always meant to be. Step into that freedom. Step into your power. And live a life so alive, so real, so unapologetically yours, that the world will have no choice but to notice. Because you are not empty. You are infinite.